This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock, joined by John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. It is Monday. We always visit on Mondays, unless it's a holiday.
Right.
Although we didn't take the King holiday off.
We should have.
Yeah. What did you do for the King holiday?
I sat right here and answered your questions as best I could.
And we talked about the King holiday,
We
so
did,
it's
we
good.
did.
All right. We are weathering another government shutdown over this past weekend. Polls show Democrats to blame, Republicans to blame, Trump to blame. You throw them in some sort of combination, you can find almost any answer that you want there to. Should we blame all sides in this matter, or do you see a stark, this group's right, this group's wrong?
I think you blame everyone. And I've got a column tomorrow that tries to explain how you blame everyone, but I must admit to you, it prioritizes, it ranks. It ranks those whom we should blame. And it begins with the president, because he was, remember a week ago, last Tuesday, he insisted on this public meeting to show that he was not demented, that he could conduct this meeting, and he talked about how I'll take whatever you pass,
right.
And we want to solve this Dreamer issue with love. And when Dianne Feinstein said, would you accept a clean Dreamer bill? And he said yes.
And then Kevin McCarthy jumped in and said, no,
Mr. President, to let me explain your position to you. So he showed not just that he was pliable, but that he wasn't informed in depth on the issue. That vacuum, or that void, has been filled by our guy, Tom Cotton, who is his best friend in the Senate, who is not, who has depth on the issue, but is extreme conservative. Stephen Miller, an aide in the White House, who's an extreme right-wing zealot on immigration. And they have insisted on taking the vacancy in the presidential brain and filling it with this hardline position that we're not going to do anything for the
Chief of Staff John Kelly.
Kelly apparently is in there too, yeah.
Mm-hmm,
And insisting that we require that before we're going to take these dreamers hostage, and we've got to have some changes and reforms in family migration and the diversity lottery with quotas for people from countries, and that's the main reason. I also blame the Arkansas electorate for sending Tom Cotton to the Senate in my column tomorrow. But the Democrats, look, the Democrats have decided the future is what the Republicans call, and which I have decided to go ahead and call, identity politics. The Democrats have decided the demographic of this country demographics are changing so strongly, and we've got the minorities. We have women, we have African Americans, we have
LGBT community.
And all we need to do is hold that. Now, to heck with some poor Democrat in white rural conservative Arkansas, we got nothing for him. We're giving him up. Arkansas is not part of the equation. And they decided to go to bat over immigration and define themselves for the midterm and maybe the next race on immigration rather than trying to fix Obamacare, which I think would have a more general appeal. So it's the classic playing to the bases on each end of the spectrum that has us here. So yes, it's fair to blame everybody. It's fair to blame the sickness of our system, but there's always gradation in that, and it starts with Trump.
Yeah.
It has to start with Trump, and then Tom Cotton coming right in behind him. In my ranking.
We're going to come back to Tom Cotton a little bit later
right.
on in this interview. So as we are speaking, we don't really know what the outcome is. They could have solved this problem and come up with a compromise. They could move on to something else. I would contend this, though, that by the time the midterms come along later this year, this may not be in anyone's radar in terms of a defining issue. It just maybe adds more fuel to those ends of the spectrum that you're talking about. But I sense that we will be in the midst of some other raging controversy come November.
The last shutdown was settled with Republicans generally believed to have been at fault, to have lost the shutdown. And yet in the subsequent midterm election after that, the Republicans gained seats. And that was even before the Trump news cycle, which spends much faster
8 times a day at least
than the one then. So yeah, I mean, this is our obsession today, and this looks like a big deal, and it's high drama. It's literally high noon, because we're taping this in the morning, but at noon there's supposed to be a vote on whether there's some sort of short-term settlement. But yes, I predict that by the midterms, I predict that by St. Patrick's Day, there'll be something else, because that's just the way it goes with this particular dynamic having to do with the way we cover news anymore, with all the things that we attribute it to, the internet and the cable news, but also this volatile White House, where the president is just odd. It's just an odd and eccentric and reckless president. That's what we have.
And we could also suggest that even if they come up with a short-term solution today or tomorrow or sometime this week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now, we'll be having this same potential debate.
Well, we're hamstrung because we don't know exactly, and it's probably moving very fast at this moment in D.C., what's going to be proposed. But it is said to be extend spending for government for a matter of days or weeks. In exchange for that, Mitch McConnell vows faithfully that immigration will be brought up forthwith. But does that mean
Lucy with the football, Charlie Brown running up to kick it?
But does that mean DACA in a clean bill, or does that mean immigration with Tom Cotton and Steve Miller's and General Kelly's conditions, which is what the whole shutdown is about? I'm at this point, and maybe this will all be clear by the time people clearer by the time people hear this.
I doubt it.
I doubt it. I think there's enough risk to both sides here that you know, I think, could we just buy ourselves a few days and see if we can do something? Maybe what they're doing, but it will not settle it at all. And in fact, the settlement worked out by moderates of both parties in the Senate, if it is enacted, is not a settlement, it's a punt. It is a mutual punt. Both teams are going to back up and punt. Yeah. They're going to punt to each other.
That's a good analogy. Yeah. Let's take a quick commercial break, and let's come back and talk about Trump's first year in office and Senator Tom Cotton.
Okay.
I'm Roby Brock with John Brummett. We're back right after this.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across 2/3 of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, the electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.
I did.
Welcome back to Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock with John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. All right, Donald Trump's, we're celebrating or not celebrating, depending on where your political persuasion is. Donald Trump's first year in office. Depending on where you're coming from, there are highlights, there are lowlights. It has certainly been a year of raging controversy and chaos. To me, the polling numbers are the story. After this first year in office, he has not broadened his base of support beyond the core supporters that brought him there. He seems to have lost some of the independents in the middle ground that broke for him and gave him the electoral victory that he needed. What is your take?
Pretty much that, and I even find it surprising because I have begun, if you've noticed in some of my columns, I've started giving Trump credit for the stock market and good economic conditions. When basically you succeed in getting taxes cut and on corporate earnings and increasing corporate confidence, and the stock market has risen from 20 to 26, you know, right. And then he also got the individual mandate repealed in Obamacare. I've started giving him credit for that. Now, I say, so what? He's destroying our culture, but I give him credit for the economy. There was a poll yesterday, ABC, I think. Are you pleased with the economy? Yes. Who do you give credit? More people gave credit to Obama than Trump.
That may just be pure political sentiment.
It may just be, well, I don't like Trump. I did like Obama, so I'm going to give credit that way. But the point is, even the things that Trump has done well, or managed to see done well during his administration, that poll suggests that, your point precisely, he is being judged by his manner, his demeanor, his behavior, his essence, this recklessness and volatile nature of how he behaves, and crude and coarse way that he behaves. That is coloring everything. So I believe you're right. The polling is what the polling is. His approval ratings are in the mid-30s. He parlayed something a little better than that into election, narrowly because of the electoral way it broke out in the Midwest, and because he had the great advantage of running against Hillary Clinton. Yeah. It's a decent policy year for a president in the end. Did he get a tax cut?
Rolled back a lot of regulations.
Yeah, it's a good policy year. But I think he's being defined otherwise. It's not the economy, stupid, right now.
Yeah.
It's Trump.
No, if you look at business confidence and consumer confidence, way up. If you look at people's take on the economy, it's generally good. But if you ask them, is the country headed in the right direction or the wrong direction, they'll tell you it's going in the wrong direction.
I mean, I wrote it last week. It's the economy versus the culture. And right now, I believe people are more concerned about the decline or erosion of civility and decency in American culture, as largely epitomized by his behavior. I think that is more defining at present than accomplishments that I, as a detractor of his, give him credit for.
We have seen this past year, too, a groundswell of movement called the resistance, basically, in terms of people that have been opposed to this Trump presidency. They were there during the election cycle of 2016. We saw them come out in protests in the streets. They have organized, voiced themselves, showed up to run for political office. We're seeing them display their objections in a variety of ways. Do you think that resistance is stronger now, a year into the Trump presidency, than it was right after he came into office?
It's about as strong. Now, it would stand to reason, applying the logic that I would apply, that it's strongest right at the beginning, that day or two after his inaugural, when he said he had the biggest inaugural ever, when he had one of the smallest, you know, then just this spontaneity of reaction was driven by early outrage that this guy is president. And you would think people would get accustomed to that, inured to it, and the intensity of that resistance, it's a hard thing to maintain. And while I see it lessening in noise that it makes, I don't really see it lessening in a general sense of that it's there. I think it's still there, and it's reflected in the polling. It's the same thing with a year to get accustomed to the thing that you find outrageous. But it is a serious political development. It's the left-wing Tea Party, basically, and we see that sustained long enough to have effect in elections.
Today.
Yeah. And I think it is a big factor today, and will be a big factor in the midterms in terms of driving turnout and voter intensity.
All right, let's talk about Senator Tom Cotton, as we referenced in the first half of our program here today. Senator Cotton's role in this current negotiation, right, he's taking a very hardline stance on immigration. Who is he appealing to? Is he appealing to rural Arkansas voters, rural America? Because he seems uncompromising on this immigration stand, and we know that he does have some future national ambitions. Strikes me as that might not play well with a general election population if you want to run for higher office someday.
I had a friend of his text me yesterday when I was on sort of a Twitter spasm after his Cotton's appearance on Meet the Press, and said, you got to give him credit. Tom is appealing to half the country. He is the spokesman for the views of half the country. I don't think so. I think he basically is a champion of something akin to the Trump base, which is not identical to the Trump base, but is similar and probably in size to it and heavily overlapping with it. I think Lindsey Graham is sort of emerging out of this as a media star, and the public is sort of charmed by the way he's got kind of a sense of humor about it, and he's quotable, and he seems to be trying to work something out. And I think when he says, Tom Cotton has become the Steve King of the Senate, meaning a really
Which
weird
Cotton
out there.
roasted him on the comeback with that
He
one
did,
by
he did.
saying that
He did, but
the difference between Lindsey Graham
Yeah.
and Steve King is
Yeah,
Steve King
no.
could get elected in
Lindsey
Iowa.
Graham was not much of a presidential candidate. I'm just saying that I think that helps. That manages to define Cotton as more extreme than as one representing half of the electorate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's championing half the electorate, and I think he's strong as can be in Arkansas. I mean, you know, this is a red state that doesn't want amnesty for all of these illegal immigrants, and he's appealing in Arkansas. But in terms of what he's all about, which is being the president after Trump or after whoever is president at the end of Trump's term, I think he's marginalized himself. I really do, and I think he's marginalized himself because his views are marginal. On immigration, on health care, on most any issue that comes up, he's a zealot. I think he is a
supporters
philosophical
of his
zealot.
will tell you, though, that he is principled,
I
that he
believe
does
he
not
is.
budge.
I believe
that
he
if
is.
you play
Okay, I'm gonna say
a
about
hard
that.
line of poker with somebody, you got to let them not know what your cards are, and you got to play your hand.
I believe Tom Cotton is principled. I've grudgingly admitted that, and do so here. He is principled. I just believe his views are extreme, and I must say, in this context, the progression of his statements on the bleep hole matter, that's not principle. That's Clintonizing. As I put on Twitter yesterday, he's essentially saying it depends on what the meaning of bleep hole is,
Right.
basically. And he looks very, very bad on that because he's taken, what, 3 positions?
I think that is correct, yeah.
Didn't hear it, didn't say it. Well, I said he didn't engage in repeated vile statements like Durbin. No, that's not what you said.
Right.
And there's been so much
been a
in the
moving
forefront.
target.
Yeah. And that is the most obvious and only example I can find where his problem is not his principled extremism, but that he looks bad and that he's not shooting straight.
Well, all right. So
Yeah, but
we're
you're
at-
going to have him on this week,
we
right?
will, yeah, we'll talk to him later on in the week.
Good.
All right, so
You want me to join in that interview?
come on.
No,
we're out of time. We don't have any more time to talk about S-Hole, Super Bowl, or Stormy Daniels. That's how big our agenda was today.
You
We
know,
had
it's
so much to talk about.
just as well.
It probably is.
But that Stormy Daniels is not a story, doesn't make the cut for a president and a porn star and a sex scandal. This is a new day.
Yeah.
This is an eroded culture in our country.
But you're willing to do the research in case it becomes a story,
That's
correct?
totally inappropriate for you to say. and no, I am not. I am not. Let's put that on the record.
All right.
All right.
John Brummett with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Catch him online at arkansasonline.com. Catch him in the actual pages of the newspaper, the
Please.
Arkansas Democrat-Gazette.
Please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. That's all for today's program. I'm Roby Brock. We'll see you next time.